He was indicted for murder. My husband's brother is deceased in the backyard. So evidence is so weak. She never found a murder weapon. His alibi was he was not there. He was at a studio with a few friends. He is not good right now. Is behind a closed door in a one-man cell. He comes out 3 times a week for 15 minutes for a shower in handcuffs.
Wow.
It's really looking bad, right?
Our next caller is a wife whose husband has been wrongfully convicted of murder in Mississippi and is going away for decades. But she's found the key evidence to help change the way this story ends.
Princess Vespa, you've got a really serious situation going on with your husband. Tell me about it.
So he was indicted in Lamar County for murder. He pled or signed a guilty plea for the Braveheart murder 2. The attorney that represented him discussed with him the day before the pleadings that he would plead to manslaughter. He was represented in court the next day by someone from the public defender's office that never was appointed to him.
All right, I'm gonna interrupt you to ask you some clarifying questions. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So your husband was indicted for murder. He was accused of murder. Who died? Was it someone your husband knew or just a random person?
I'm not sure how he knew him or if he even did. I'm not 100% sure of that.
What's your husband say? Does he say, I'd never seen the guy before, or I barely knew him? Does he have any position on that?
No position.
Okay. And your husband's saying he's innocent?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm only pausing here because this is really serious, so I'm making sure we're going through this methodically. So your husband is arrested, says he's innocent. He's appointed a public defender.
Okay, so not immediately. 14 is the crime. December 26th of 14 is the crime.
Okay.
He was arrested on the 29th of 14 December. He wasn't indicted until May of 16. And it wasn't until after he was indicted that he was appointed counsel.
So he was held for a year and a half without an indictment?
Without an indictment, without counsel or bond.
And
so
what was he originally charged with?
The indictment is for murder.
And then what was the plea deal for? How long was it? The one that he ultimately ended up signing?
Second degree with a sentence of 40 years, 25 to serve, 15 post-release, 5 of the 15 supervised post-release.
Was there a different plea deal that he had discussed that was less than the second degree?
It was. He discussed with his appointed counsel on May 1st that he would go and plead to manslaughter, which holds a maximum of 20 years. And in Mississippi, he would have been eligible for parole. Even if they would have given him max of the 20, he would have been eligible for parole at 50%, where the murder 2 is not a parole eligible charge.
So he thought originally and was prepared to do something where he thought he would at max be looking at 20 years, half of that on parole. So he thought 10 years was what he was looking at. And now it's 25 minimum.
Right.
That is a very, very, very big difference. So
what did he say about why he ended up accepting the second degree murder?
Okay, so why he accepted manslaughter even, right? And because he is innocent. The attorney that represented him expressed to him that Lamar County, they have you indicted on this charge of murder, that we can take it to trial, but she said she was not going to build a defense for him, right? And that he would ultimately get convicted of murder. That would have been life without parole. He would have never seen an out date. So at that point,
when you said she said she would, so his counsel was a woman that said he was looking at life, and she advised him to take the plea deal, or was that the prosecutor? The prosecutor was saying they would go for life.
No, that murder in the state of Mississippi is like it's either life with or without parole. But even then, parole would have been at 25. You'd have to serve at least 25 to be eligible for parole.
So they brought up the topic of manslaughter. So is the public defender talking about the strength of the state's case? Like, do you know anything about what the evidence was? Is there like a gun with his fingerprints or a knife, or like
Not at all. So evidence is so weak. So basically, to break down the actual crime scene, right? There is the guy who lived at the house who is deceased on arrival. There is my husband's brother who is deceased in the backyard on arrival.
So your husband's
And then
brother.
there-
Wait. So your husband's brother died as well in this event.
Yes,
So there's two. How many people died total?
two.
Okay.
The only other person at the scene was a lady. She actually, so whatever happened. She hides some money and some drugs in the closet. She leaves the apartment, calls 911. When she returns back to the apartment, the police are already there and will not let her go back in the house. If she was gone from the apartment approximately 6 to 8 minutes, on a 911 call, she said she did not know who was there shooting.
So that's what they don't.
She
So it
did
was
not-
a shooting. So what evidence do they have that ties to your husband?
So after the 911 call, 2 days later, her sister said, hey, word on the street, this guy is involved, and showed her a picture from Facebook of my husband. The next day, she went in for investigation to write a statement, and the detective showed her also a picture of my husband, and she said, yep, that's him.
Okay.
That's the one. She identified him as the person that her sister showed her a picture of, not of the person she saw that night.
So the photo ID, they photo ID'd him. What about tangible physical evidence? Do they have any evidence that he was at the scene? Murder weapon? Where's the murder weapon?
So never found a murder weapon. They said that they would be able to tie a phone to him that was used to text his brother or something. I don't know, but he did not have a phone, a contract phone in his name. It wasn't. And also there is another person involved that was picked up and questioned, but never brought about with anything or any charges, would fit the same description as my husband as far as height, color, hair, everything. If you've seen the silhouette of somebody in the dark, it could be either that other person or my husband, right? They both fit the same description. They actually picked.
Does your husband have an alibi here?
His alibi was he was not there. He was at a studio with a few friends. Those friends were issued subpoenas and were going to testify. If he would have went to trial, they would have showed up to testify that he was not there. He was with them. The lady that was there that wrote the statement, in her statement, it was a third statement that she implemented my husband. The first two, she did not know who it was. But even on that third statement, she never said that she saw my husband shoot anyone. She simply said that he's the one she saw aiming a gun towards the refrigerator. She never said that he shot anybody, that she just saw him aim a gun.
How's your husband doing?
He is not good. He is not good right now. So he is actually, it was another situation, that not bad or anything, but within the Department of Corrections that has brought him to where he is now at a facility where he is behind a closed door in a one-man cell. He comes out 3 times a week for 15 minutes for a shower in handcuffs. He can use the phone twice a week for 20 minutes.
Why would his
he's not
lawyer?
good.
Why would his lawyer recommend taking that higher plea deal, not even the manslaughter at all, if the evidence is that weak and he has an alibi that he wasn't even there?
So that attorney, right? That attorney's not even the one that stood up and represented him in court that day. The attorney that stood up and represented him in court that day was never appointed to him ever on court paperwork.
Wow.
That it's really looking bad, right? So the whole time during the proceedings, he's telling his attorney or who he thought was his counsel, like, hey, this is wrong, this isn't right. And his counsel's telling him, just hold on. I'm going to take care of this. Well, once it's signed, it's signed. And in the meantime, the district attorney, the judge asked, if you were to take this to trial, how would y'all intend on proving that he is actually guilty of this charge? And they said, not only do we have this lady who is going to come testify that she saw him shoot this man. They never could find her to serve her a subpoena, by the way, that the subpoena got returned unserved.
I'm gonna ask some more questions. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but
Why would he take the plea?
yeah, that's what I think. That there's a couple things that are kind of standing out to me. And Bill, jump in at any time if you want to. So, how old is your husband?
He will be 32 on the 16th of this month.
Okay, so he's young enough that these differences really matter. You know, if your husband was 55 or 60, the difference between a 25 or 30 year, like, it's still serious, but it changes the math of this. He's got a whole life to live. Does your husband have a criminal record?
So he did have a prior conviction for burglary that he was serving a 9-year sentence on. That they never revoked him or anything. That he actually made parole.
He was out on parole when this happened.
Yes.
Okay, you said your husband's alibi was, and I get, just so you know a little bit about me, my dad went to prison when I was 2, and my dad died in prison. So I grew up, yeah. So there's a lot of empathy coming from this chair. Okay, so I'm asking some questions.
My husband has 8 children, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
He has 8 children who one of them was born after he was already in jail, right? So he's never even been in the world with him.
Wow.
My little brother was born after my dad went to prison, and he never saw my dad outside of bars. So I get that. You said your husband's alibi was at a studio. Is that an art studio? Is that a rap studio?
Right. Yeah, music. A music studio.
So we got a guy who, I'm also making an assumption just based on your voice. Correct me if I'm wrong here. We got a black guy in Missouri with a criminal record. Mississippi. I'm sorry. We've had a lot of calls today. I'm sorry. Mississippi. Black guy, Mississippi. Criminal record. His alibi, he's at rap studio. So I don't think he's getting
his brother.
His
brother's
been killed.
By this guy who then gets killed.
So this is a crazy. I'm looking up your Princess Vespa, the fake name. This is a crazy story. Whether your husband is innocent or guilty, and I'm trying to help you get. I believe that you believe your husband. I really do, and I'm getting this story out, and I'm walking through it. Either way, the deck is stacked against him. You agree with me on that, right? Like, we're looking at the same thing. Okay, I want to keep it. Definitely. I'm trying to keep it 100 when I'm asking these questions, because there's some people.
No, definitely, like, transparency is great. Like,
exactly.
You know, odds were against him, and on May 1st, when he spoke with his counsel, with her suggestions and her counsel that the best thing for him was to take a plea and do 10 with all the odds against him, even though he is innocent. So still, it would have been better for him to do that versus taking it to trial and trying to prove his innocence and never seeing the light of day.
And with him doing a deal for 25 years, that's taking him all the way to, what, 57, 56?
So his tentative release date would have been like 2046, but I actually was able recently to get all of that correct. So MDOC was calculating his time wrong, and just like 2 weeks ago, I watched an entire decade drop off of his tentative release date. Now his tentative release date is 2036 because the judge in the plea put in court documents that he would get credit for any and all time served, right? So he actually is being counted. His time started in 2012, 2 years before the crime even happened.
Doesn't make any. Yeah, it sounds like there's not a lot of seriousness being put into this from the public defenders, from the courts. Go ahead, Jamie.
I have a couple questions. You also
hard job for Jamie, by the way. His job is to make this funny somehow. So I'm really interested.
This is less funny than the other ones.
Yeah.
He was held without being indicted for a year and a half. Is that what I heard at the beginning? Yeah. That strikes me as odd. The fact that he thought he was going to plead to manslaughter, and yet he walks into a courtroom and the judge goes second-degree murder, and nothing is raised as an alarm, and he goes, yes, I accept that plea. And my third question is, without it actually being a trial with a plea deal, you can't go back and say, you would go, I want a new trial, or there was misrepresentation because you have a lawyer who wasn't signed on as his lawyer cutting the plea deal. Can you go back and nullify that plea deal because of a legality that the lawyer was not actually signed to represent me and did not have my best interest at heart?
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are my questions.
It most definitely is. It's inadequate counsel, right? And now you have what I think, and it seems to be like an illegal conviction. But to make things even more complicated, the attorney that was actually appointed to him 90 days after he took the plea filed for her statutory fees. And in that paperwork, she puts, I represented my husband who was indicted on murder, pled to manslaughter, and the same judge that sentenced him 90 days prior signed off on that and paid this lady, who was not the one that represented him in court that day. And on that paper, when she put her itemized, on that form, she scratched that form out and she wrote C attached, and she wrote down a few different items of what she was going to get paid for with no dates or times or anything, and just put a total amount at the bottom. And the same judge, who also is resigned from his seat now, signed off on it, on a manslaughter.
It's so odd because typically Mississippi is historically so fair to the African American population. So it seems odd to me that there would be any nefarious undertakings with this.
They are the fairest of all states.
Yes,
Sure.
Mississippi is well known for their racial equality.
To jump in on that side, Mississippi is one of, I think, only 5 states that has an indefinite amount of time you can be held in a pre-indictment status.
Is that right?
They
And on
literally can hold you forever.
Forever.
They can literally indict you and hold you forever with no bond.
Correct.
Without
And they have all.
No bond.
no proof, no anything? Or
Also,
It's very light. The
Also,
judge basically
Mississippi-
decides.
Mississippi is one of 8 states that do not have any governing authority holding the public defenders accountable for anything. The public defenders report directly to the judges and the courts. That they do not have they're one of 8 states, right? Every other state besides those 8, they actually have a governing authority over them to make sure that they are doing what they.
Yeah, and on top of that, most Mississippi counties only do a grand jury every 2 to 3 times a year.
So I actually currently right now I'm on the call with you, sitting in the car in the parking lot of Lamar County's public defender's office, because when I called earlier, because I needed this attorney that represented him in court, I was trying to see if I was missing something, right? Am I missing a date where he was actually appointed to his counsel? I called him. The main public defender gets on the phone with me and says, I do not see it. And from what I see, it looks like an illegal conviction and an illegal imprisonment for the last 12 years. So I immediately went and picked his mother up and his uncle up, and we drove up here. The public defender is actually meeting with someone in the jail, but when he comes out, we're going to have him call Lynn Fitch, the attorney general's, now, immediately, right now. Like, they've already admitted that, yes, this is an illegal conviction, and yes, he's been illegally imprisoned. Just today, that
Wow.
they are sitting in their office right now telling my mother that this is an illegal conviction. So technically, there are representation. That
They are.
I walked over to the district attorney's office, and the lady shuts me down. I cannot speak to you. You have to go to the public defenders. I cannot say. Her face is red. She knows they've messed up, and she don't know what to tell me other than, I can't help you. We need to get Lynn Fitch on the phone now. I know there's procedures for everything, but obviously with all the mistakes and errors in these court documents, y'all do not follow procedure. That's where we're at right now.
So-
We're fixing to get our shirts and protest in Jackson.
One, amazing, awesome. I'm so glad that that's happening right now. And you've got to continue to press just like you're doing right now. I am incredibly impressed by not only the depth of knowledge and analysis, but your just level-headedness, while I can still tell just how deeply you care about the children who are affected, about your husband, and the travesty that's occurring at large. And what I will say when I say put the boot on the neck and continue to press is, without having an authority figure or board over the judges that's active or the public defenders, really what it comes down to is just sheer embarrassment.
Yeah.
And when it's so obviously ridiculous, this is the kind of stuff that gets picked up by 60 Minutes or Netflix or whatever, and people go,
Or
yeah,
Rock
go ahead.
Nation. Rock Nation, and they just did they actually were nominated for that Exposing Parchment documentary.
Right.
They were nominated for an Emmy for the writing.
Right.
But yes,
For our callers at home, Rock Nation is an arm. Team Rock is an arm of Jay-Z's company that has filed lawsuits against various prisons and prison systems.
For some of our white viewers at home, Jay-Z is a rapper.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Kidding.
That's
Wow.
the best I got.
Trying to put a little bit of levity into it.
Okay, so go ahead. So
Right.
so Team Rock gets involved. I saw the lawsuit. I looked it up that had your husband listed in it.
So he was in Unit 29 in Parchment. And if you were to watch the documentary, you will see the conditions that actually the thing that stuck out the most in that documentary was one of the attorneys said, if we were here and these were animals, somebody would be in jail right now. That's the type of condition. They actually, I think they had 16 people die within a month and a half in that unit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No one would come in to give medical attention or anything to anybody. So they would actually light mattresses on fire, thinking to send a smoke signal. So now you have these enclosed dorms with people locked in cells. Nobody's coming, and now it's full of smoke and we can't breathe.
Jeez. So I think it's important to recognize the larger part about this. Parchment is such a historically bad prison. It's referenced in numerous books, songs, movies. I mean, the Coen brothers movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? They talk about Parchment in that movie because of how terrible it's always been. Yeah, exactly. The Chamber, John Grisham.
They opened Parchment and filled it to capacity with 3,000 prisoners back in the early 1900s, 1902, somewhere in there, for the sole purpose when they abolished slavery, they needed somebody to maintain the commerce and farm. So what was the best thing? We're going to legally enslave these people and still get the job done.
You have such a great understanding of this case. Have you applied to the Innocence Project or one of the projects
I
that
actually started 2 weeks ago in paralegal classes, right? So this is something I'm doing, and I did it only to gain more knowledge on how to find justice.
So
and by the way, in 2 weeks, 6 classes, I have all 100.
You probably know other places you could apply
Princess
to.
Vespa, I want to tell you one quick thing. The University of Mississippi has a well-renowned Innocence Project. We're going to connect you directly with them because these are the kinds of things that they will be able to help. Now, hopefully, this meeting you're going to have today, and some of this is already going to get it going, but to have that extra oomph is going to make a big difference. I commend you on taking matters into your own hands and keep going on that path. You will be an absolute wonderful addition to the legal profession based on not only your knowledge and passion, but your skills, your analytical abilities. So I commend you to keep on that path, and I want to put that on a note for our producers so that we'll get you that connection. But Josh, go ahead.
I don't think that I don't think your husband could have picked a worse state or a worse place to have this happen to him. It sounds like he couldn't.
I don't think he picked it.
No.
It sounds like he couldn't.
Louisiana probably would have been about.
Shut up so I can say something nice.
Jeez.
We
do love you, Princess Vespa. He's just
I don't
contained.
think your husband. I'm containing my rage right now, and it's not for the interruption. It's for the whole. This triggers
for the situation.
Me. I'm usually not a snowflake or whatever, but this personally, I can remember myself at 3 being confused. Where's dad? Where's dad? When's he gonna come home? Not understanding everything. I remember my brother learning the concept of what a father was from prison. The idea, the belief that your husband is innocent, the whole part, everything, the fact that you can be held with an indictment, without an indictment, indefinitely, right? That doesn't sound like America. It sounds like a fucking third world prison camp, okay? But I just want to say, I want to finish my thought for a second, which is that your husband could not have picked a worse place for this to happen to him in. He couldn't have picked a worse public defender. He probably couldn't have picked a shittier, more racist judge. But holy shit, does he have a good wife? And you're an incredible person. And this whole call has been about him. But I just want to say that you are, I can't even imagine what kind of mother you are. You're fantastic. You're doing it all. You're a superhero, a lot like my mom was. And I just want you to know that my heart, we do this show and we eventually, hopefully, the show is big and it's successful. But it is not lost on me that we get to talk to amazing people and help them sometimes. And this is that right now. So I just want to tell you, I feel you and I see you, and you're doing an incredible job. That's what I wanted to say to you. Okay.
Thank you.
So I want to echo everything that Josh said, and his personal story and connection could not be deeper to this. And what I want to show is a little bit of light. So just to get a little legal on it, post-conviction relief can be filed. Mississippi apparently just is consistently not into the rules, right? It just doesn't have much rules. Because here, you can file it even after time if there's ineffective assistance of counsel or if there exists evidence of material facts not previously presented or heard that requires a vacation, so vacating the conviction or sentence in the interest of justice. That's the key language you're going to need when you talk to these folks. Go ahead.
So here's the thing with that, right? I just now, and I'm probably the first one ever that found that statutory filing from the attorney that had manslaughter.
The fees statement? Yeah. That's an incredible find.
That's crazy.
That's new. That's new evidence.
Right,
now.
right.
3 weeks old.
So that's the craziest part is you've got to be able to get all these things together, and it feels like you're gotten them together, right? So, one, if you only got one copy of that, save it, scan it, email it.
This story is not going to end today. I want to say we're going to follow up with you off air. I also would like in a month or so, like let's get an update call. Let's get her back on. Let's see, because this is bigger than this is you, but this is also bigger than you. This is about how do you reform systems, how do you create access to justice, and we just want to help you as much as we can, and we want to grow with your story. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, to be fair, Mississippi, we all know, horrible place. Mississippi Burning,
besides
fantastic movie.
Louisiana too.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions about how Mississippi operates, watch Mississippi Burning, because I don't think a lot's changed down there.
Princess Vespa, thank you for what you're doing for your family, for your husband, and frankly, the kind of change that will be spurred from the digging and analysis you've done. Thank you for calling in. We are so honored to be able to talk to you and to be able to just bask in the energy that you're bringing to this terrible situation. We're going to bring you some additional resources. Do you feel like you were heard and got an opportunity to gain some clarity on this terrible situation?
Definitely. More so than ever, right? The last few days that I've been telling anybody that would listen about his story, and I'm actually being heard now. So yes.
Amen. Amen.
We're going to follow up with you, but keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have a crazy legal story and you want to talk to some lawyers anonymously, for free, call us.
Wait, we're not getting paid?
Nothing at all. I don't know how we're going to pay for it, to be honest.